let's tackle something that can be really frustrating. Let's see how to add a sign to Minecraft. Right, I know what you might be thinking. Come on, adding a sign can't be that difficult. Well, I wouldn't say that it's difficult necessarily. It's just that there are so many little things that you need to actually focus on and make right that it can be really frustrating. So the first time I actually tried to add this, it was incredibly frustrating because you really need to be very careful and every little thing has to be absolutely correct, otherwise it won't work. Alright, let's first of all start by creating a new class in our block package, and this will be called the mod WoodTypes. So you need to create this once and then have one wood type for each different wood you have. So public static final wood type, which is going to be called redwood, is equal to woodtype.create, and then we're going to put in a new resource location with the tutorial mod, the mod ID, and then redwood, and then we'll simply do toString. So this will actually make sure that it looks in our own textures folder and not the Minecraft textures folder. We actually want to add it twice. So once in our common setup, and here we want to do woodtype.register mod woodtypes.redwood, and then a second time in the FML client setup, and that's going to be atlases.addWoodType mod woodtype.redwood. Those are two very important registers. If you don't put them in, then the actual texture will not be displayed properly in game. Right, the next thing we want to add is a tile entity, and if that surprises you, then yeah, that's what I mean. We actually have to add a custom tile entity, and that is going to be a new class in our tile entity package called mod sign tile entity, and this will extends sign tile entity. We'll simply have a public mod sign tile entity constructor here, which simply calls super. And then we also want to override the getType method. Now we actually can't return anything yet because we actually need to create the tile entity inside of our mod tile entities, and this is also going to be a very fun thing. So this is going to be a public static final registry object of type tile entity type mod sign tile entity, which is going to be the sign underscore tile underscore entities, and this is equal to tile entities dot register with name sign, and then this is going to be a tile entity type dot builder dot create. So similar how we've done it above, and then mod sign tile entities new comma, and then we need to supply the two blocks. Now in this case we actually can't supply the two blocks because we don't have the blocks yet, so we're gonna simply put in mod blocks.lightningchanneler.get and then just copy this over again, something like that, and then we can do .build here, .build null, and then close this. The code is of course also available for download in the description below, either in the GitHub repository or in individual gists, so you don't have to type everything out yourself. And now that that is done, we can now return the mod tile entities dot sign tile entity dot get. And with that, the mod sign tile entity actually is done, and we can now create the two custom block classes. So this will be in our custom package in the block package mod wall sign block, which extends the wall sign block class, and this will simply create constructor matching super. We want to override the create tile entity method and simply return a new mod sign tile entity here, and then we can simply drag over this class to our custom package again, holding control, and change this to the mod standing sign block. And then instead of extending the wall sign block, we want to extend the standing sign block. And that pretty much is all that we need to do in those two classes. Now on to our mod blocks class. In here, let's just copy the lightning channel twice, and let's do first of all the redwood underscore sign. This is going to be the redwood underscore sign here, and this is going to be a mod standing sign. And this also needs a mod wood type, so mod wood type.redwood, and then same here for the other one, redwood underscore wall underscore sign, and this is going to be the redwood underscore wall underscore sign. And this is of a class mod wall sign block, and of course once again with the mod wood types.redwood. So the two blocks have been added. Now what's very important, we actually don't want to call the register block method. We actually want to call blocks.register, because of course they both have the same item. So they have the same block item. So we only want to register the block with the block deferred register. So that's very important. And then instead of our mod tile entities, we're going back. We want to say the redwood sign and here the wall sign. So that's very important that we also change this up here. Now the mod tile entities is done. Same with the mod blocks. We now still need to go into our mod items class and actually add the item for the sign. So in our mod items class, let's just go down here and let's just copy the amethyst horse armor for the sake of argument, redwood underscore sign. The name here is also going to be redwood underscore sign, and this is going to be a sign item. Now the sign item takes in, first of all, item properties, and we're going to add one more thing to the item properties, and that's going to be the max stack size, which is going to be 16. This is simply normal for blocks. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I choose to add it. And then we want to add the two blocks. So this is going to be the redwood sign and .get, and then the second one is going to be modblocks.redwood wall sign.get. Right, now let's not forget to add the JSON files. The block state JSON is actually fairly straightforward. It simply points to a block model. The block model, as you can see, simply has some particles here, and the item model, which is actually very interesting, that actually points to a certain texture. We're of course also going to add the texture in just a moment. So the item texture is simply going to go into our textures and then item. So this is the texture that you'll see when you have the sign in your inventory. But what about the texture that is standing in the world? Well, that actually goes into textures and then a new directory called entity and then another new directory called signs. So very important that this is plural. And then add the redwood PNG to it. Now I can actually show you the redwood PNG. It actually looks like this. This is the PNG that you need for the sign. This is both used for the GUI as well as for the actual block that is placed in game. Of course, don't forget to add the translation. This is kind of interesting, so you should actually add the block translation, so redwood underscore sign and the redwood wall sign, as well as the redwood underscore sign for the item as well, just so you have all your bases covered. Right, and one last thing we need to add, we actually need to bind the tile entity, so we need to do client registry dot bind tile entity renderer mod tile entities dot sign tile entity dot get and then sign tile entity renderer : new. So this is also very important that the actual renderer, so that the block actually shows up in game. Alright, we found something in Minecraft once more, and as you can see, the redwood sign has been added to the game, so I can set it down here and I can, something like tutorials by Kaupenjoe. I could say something like that, for example, I could write that in, and there you go. There it is, the sign, and it actually has our custom texture added to it as well. It's very much snaking around. It is very similar to adding a tile entity, just with a little less of the GUI and of course the container. I definitely find it a bit more complicated than it actually has to be. But whatever the case may be, we have gone through it and we have successfully added the sign to the game. So I hope you found this useful and you learned something new. If you did, I would of course appreciate a like, and I will see you in the next tutorial. So yeah.